Wonderful. This thing is making me a little bit uncomfortable, so I hope it doesn't fall as I speak. And thank you, our friendly host, to kind of make the job very simple for me. You guys are already kind of woken up or all jazzed up, so it's easy. So this is kind of a run-the-mill topic, right, that probably all of us would have heard, right? Data literacy. But I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible to, conscious of the fact that this is such an important topic, and at the same time, we are just back from lunch. So I'll leapfrog into what I wanted to talk about, right? So before that, let me just set the context, right? Why are we even worried about data literacy? It is because of this, precisely because of this. We are living in an age of data, right? There is so much of data that is going to kind of be thrown at us. It's as good as a data tsunami. So if you see from 2024, 25, all the way up to 2030, we are seeing an exponential growth in data. So we are living amidst so much of data. I would rather call it as a universe of data around us, which is actually a gold mine if you think about it, right? So as organizations, if we realize that this is not just some data, some ones and zeros put together, it is actually a gold mine of information which can give us all the insights, all the actions that we want to take in order to gain competitive advantage, right? That is what is going to keep organizations in future ahead of the curve. And that is the importance that we need to associate as organizations with data literacy, given the tsunami of data that's going to kind of fall on us. Now, another part of the context that I would want to set is that was data, right? How the industry is evolving over a period of time, right? And how along with industry, our society has been evolving over a period of time. Now, this is a busy slide. I'll try to make it simple for you. So if you see, we started with a kind of a prehistoric kind of a setup where we were mostly hunters and gatherers, and then we became pretty much agrarian society. The Industrial Revolution started somewhere around 1760s, right? And then we moved on to more of a automation and information kind of an industry, right? And then now we are in Industry 5.0, right? Industry 4.0 was more about connected systems, connected devices, etc., big data, right? And now Industry 5.0 is more about AI. It's more about Gen AI. It's more about everything that we can do with data and with AI, right? Along with the industry evolution, if you see, our society has evolved, right? So we are now, from an industrial society to information society, we are actually now a super smart society, right? And it is good for us because this society, this Industry 5.0 has enabled this Society 5.0, and this Society 5.0 is extremely customer-centric, right? So for once, we are the center, right? It's not automation. It's not efficiency. It's not economical growth. It is human, right? It's human-centric, this particular industry, and Industry 5.0 and Society 5.0, they are more kind of integrated and talking to each other in terms of not just human centricity, but also in terms of resiliency, in terms of sustainability and everything. So this is the evolution that is happening, and we are at the cusp of this evolution, right? And therefore, it is very important as to how we make use of the deluge of data around us in order to capitalize what is happening in terms of transformation in industry and in society. Now, this is setting the context. Now, coming to what we are going to discuss in the next few minutes, data literacy, right? So we know what data is. We know what literacy is. Now, put together, what is this data literacy, right? We need to kind of demystify that for us a little. So if I were to do that, and I were to be super simplistic as possible, Data literacy is the ability to effectively communicate with data. That's it. You have data, you have a purpose, all of those industries, Society 5.0. Therefore, how effectively are you able to communicate to the AI systems which are at the crux of the industry, or at the center point of Industry 5.0 is very, very critical, right? And this communication, as any other form of communication, is two-way, right? It's machine talking to human, as well as human talking to machine. And data literacy is all about how you make this two-way communication effective, right? So let me talk about one direction of communication, which is machine to human, right? So, or let me kind of put this scenario in front of you. Have you ever come across a scenario wherein your team has spent countless number of hours, lot of effort, lot of brainstorming, lot of storyboarding, and they came up, and then of course they took a lot of data from various sources, put them on cloud, created models, and created beautiful intuitive visualizations and intuitive analytics, right? And they shared it with a customer. The customer was super happy in the beginning, right? Customer or your business stakeholders. They were very super happy in the beginning. Everyone was happy. It was a successful project. Come 2 months, you look at where your solution is, and you see your adoption has tanked. The solution is not being used by people, right? People are, I mean, when I say people, it's the business leaders for whom you have actually developed the solution, right? And then you kind of are confused, right? These were the same leaders who were so excited about your solution in the beginning, right? And you put in a lot of effort, your entire team into it, but now what? Now why are they not using it, right? The same thing happened to me, right? So what I did in that case was I went to the business stakeholders and I asked them why, right? They said, because Nithya, see, these solutions I'm not able to use. I find them very cryptic. I have to kind of maneuver from one slide to the other. I have to kind of pull through multiple drop downs. It's too heavy and it's too complicated. And I'll go back to my Excel, and that's what I've done, right? Then that gave me a strange feeling as to why, right? What has happened over this? And then as IT people, we try to always blame ourselves first. We become our worst self-critics. We think that we have not done a good job. Maybe we should go back and simplify this and then do more user trainings and things like that. And that's what I did. But still, 2 months down the line, same problem, right? The users were not using it. When I expanded my analysis, I went and spoke to a lot of people. I realized two things. It's not about the solution, the simplicity of it, or the relevance of it. It's not always about how much knowledge you have actually shared with your customers, or the kind of documentation that you have created behind the solution. It's about the customer's willingness, right? The business willingness or intention to kind of learn to use these solutions. That's where the data literacy, the gap in data literacy, it becomes really, really wide. So here, I found that the business is intentionally not coming forward in order to get them data literate, right? So in case of, and this is a typical machine to human form of communication, where the humans have to learn, have to interpret what the machine is telling, what insights they can take out of that, and they can use it. But they are intentionally not doing that because they're scared. They're literally scared of, oh, this is ML, this is AI, it's too much for me, I can't understand. I would rather go back to my old ways of doing it, right? So the conclusion that I could draw is that in a machine-to-human communication, it's two things. It's one is the data literacy in terms of availability of the insights in terms of availability of knowledge, in terms of availability of data, but also in terms of the intention of the people to get themselves literate in these areas. Now, this is about the data literacy from machine to humans. Now, the other way of communication, right? The data literacy in the context of human to machine communication, right? How do we as humans communicate to machines or communicate to AI systems, right? So we give AI systems instructions, we give AI systems data so that they are able to learn and they are able to kind of, predict, or they are able to generate, right? So if I move on to that aspects, now, what do you think this is? It's a nut, right? As simple as that. Now, if I say the diameter of this nut is 10, do I have to tell you the unit for this? Do I have to tell you the unit for this? The diameter of a nut? What it could be? Millimeters, centimeters, kilometers? No, right? Through our common sense, quote unquote, we are able to determine that this has to be 10 millimeter, right? Why? Because it's a common sense. We know that, right? That it cannot be more than millimeters. But to a machine, is it enough? If you tell a machine, it'll get confused. It'll think what it is. Is it millimeter? Is it centimeter? Because machine does not have common sense. AI does not have an inbuilt common sense. The common sense for AI has to be built by us. How? By providing many or hundreds of variables to the AI algorithms to process from. So they will go, these AI algorithms will then consume a lot of energy, a lot of water, and then they will come up with millions of more hyperparameters and parameters, and then they will say, okay, fine. Now the AI system does not have to be told that the unit for this is a millimeter, right? It has got that little bit of common sense built in it, right? But this is just one factor. There are multiple things, right? The AI system needs to be told so that, it can become more kind of natural. It comes more natural to the AI systems that, these are some subtle nuances, right, which they can pick up from and they don't have to be told. Now how does this have to do, what does this have to do with data literacy, right? So the people who are building these AI systems, they need to have sufficient data literacy, or they need to kind of incorporate sufficient data literacy in order to ensure that they feed all the parameters that are very relevant in order to kind of solve a particular problem to the machine. So this is one form of data literacy from humans to machines. Now let me take another example. What do you think this is? It's a school bus, right? What do you think this is? It's still a cool school bus, right? Little blurred, right? But it's still a school bus. So if we were able to kind of predict what this is, we will say, okay, this is a school bus. But what happened when somebody fed this to an AI system? What did it predict it as? An ostrich. It predicted this as an ostrich, right? Why? Can we blame the AI system for that? AI systems are not designed, they are not as good as human beings in defiltering the noise. So we, as people who are feeding data into these AI systems, should have sufficient amount of, or should incorporate sufficient amount of data literacy in order to ensure that we denoise the data, we denoise the algorithms so that they are able to do their jobs effectively, right? Now coming to another example. Now this is quite kind of famous kind of an example. So a few years back, Google came up with word-to-vec. Now word-to-vec is a deep learning model, right? It's a bag of word kind of an algorithm, wherein every word in our dictionary will be given a vector space. It's a multidimensional vector space, and such that two similar words will be equidistant from each other. That's amount of technical thing which I'm going to tell you. But Google was extremely proud about this. They said that, this is highly kind of unprecedented kind of research and an outcome that they came up with, which was, right, not taking any credit away from that. So what they said was, if I were to, assuming that, word2vec was a person, if I were to ask the person, word2vec, what is a king minus a man plus woman, it'll say queen, right? Quite logical. So there was an anthropologist in Stanford University. She said, this is fine, this is very well, so let me just experiment with this. So what she did was, she said, okay, what is a man minus father plus a mother? What do you think it would have given? Any guess? A nurse, right? So a father is to doctor versus mother is to a nurse. Are you catching that, what's happening here? Exactly. So the AIs, okay, similar thing, right? There's one more example. They did the same thing, right? A businessman a father is to a businessman versus a mother is to a homemaker, right? So can we blame AI system, hey, you're biased, right? You're not doing good. Can we blame the system? Who's to be blamed? Is the people who have generated that system, right? AI is a dumb system, right? End of the day, it's just equations and hyperparameters, blah, 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 right? Hard to understand, but it's just that, right? So think about this, right? You're able to, we are trying to compare millions of years of evolution and natural selection, which is here, with a couple of decades or a little more of brute force, right? You can't expect AI systems to be as intelligent as us, but we are intelligent beings. So what we need to do, we need to have enough data literacy, quote unquote data literacy. This is again a data literacy thing, right? So we need to have enough data literacy so that we feed the right kind of data into this AI systems, right? We ensure that the data we feed is debiased, right? We don't propagate the societal biases we have already. And it is also that the algorithm needs to be checked, right, frequently. And all of this has got to do with data literacy, right? End of the day, because we are the people who need to associate the right kind of importance with these aspects. Now, another one. So, again, one more AI system was fed images of these two people, but a little blurred. And it was asked to generate, right, regenerate the images. This is what it did, right? Pretty good job, right? So though the first person got some hair, right, white, but got some hair, and the lady got her spectacles off, which is good, right? They should be happy. Now, who do you think this is? Yes, the ex-US President Barack Obama, right? So easy to, this is what the AI system generated. Obama? No, by no means. So what does it typically tell about this AI system? One is it's highly sensitive to noise. Second thing, it is highly biased. Again, you can't blame the AI. It is the people who are feeding data into this AI who need to be, quote unquote, data literate enough in order to identify that the data has to be denoised, the data has to be debiased, so that such things do not happen. And this was quite a scandal, right? If you had, a few years back, if you know about it, it was a big thing. Now, all that I spoke about, right, I showed a few examples, right, in the beginning about a machine talking to to human, right? And all of us have experienced that, right? People are kind of holding themselves back in making them more data literate, right? So that is one aspect that we spoke about. And then we spoke about a couple of examples where we saw that as long as people who are generating those AI systems are not data literate enough, the AI systems are not going to give the desired outcomes, right? They're going to be biased, they're going to be unethical, and they're going to be hallucinating, they're going to be inaccurate, all of the things, right? So in summarization, all of these that we have spoken about, and maybe I would say 2/3 of all the AI conversations that you have heard in the past few days, all, I would rather say, boils down to data literacy. Ethical AI, responsible AI, explainable AI, AI adoption, reliable AI. All of this would point to the lack or requirement of data literacy. And data literacy is a very human thing. As I keep saying, you can't blame an AI system. It's created by us. So we got to look inwards and see how we kind of break through our barriers and make us more data literate. Now, this is probably the heaviest slide, which has got a lot of things, but it captures everything, right? Now, we spoke about what. Now we have to see how. How do we kind of tackle this as organizations, right? So these are some of the skills and competencies that we need to be very, very mindful of as organizations to inculcate data literacy in our employees or in our teams, right? So it's the whole circle, right? Starting from data collection to data management, to data evaluation, application, and the conceptual framework, everything, right? So the data literacy needs to be incorporated or ingrained right from the process of data collection to the data management, where we talk about security, we talk about organization and retention of data, etc. We also need to ensure data literacy in terms of conceptual framework and data application, right? Critical and logical thinking. Where is the best place that I can make use of this data and the available AI infrastructure to bring meaningful changes, not just economically to my organization, but also to the dream of society 5.0, to the dream of industry 5.0. How do I make use of this tsunami of data which is going to come to me, right? All of this, right? Apart from that, decision making, right? Decision makers, and I don't call these are the tactical or the operational guys. Even in the executive boardrooms, the decision makers have to be data literate, right? They need to come out of their mind shackles. I've spoken to a couple of my CXOs, and they always say, Nithya, your reports are fine, but somehow I'm scared, right? My team uses it, and I kind of go by my gut feel, and I somehow find it working. No. Even in the exec rooms, people have to start using ML models. They have to start using Power BI reports, Tableau reports, or anything, right? So that has to be the pervasiveness of data literacy through these competencies and skills. Now, I will just kind of conclude with this famous quote. And this is a very, very profound, meaningful, and very, very powerful quote, right? And it is by William E. Deming, the father of data science, machine learning. So he says, in God we trust, all others bring data, right? There cannot be any other quote, I must say, which will nail down the need for data literacy more than this. So all that I've spoken in the past 20 minutes on one side, and this quote on the other side, this quote would be overweighing, right? So this is such a profound and a meaningful quote, right? And if you think about it, right, this is the importance of data literacy that even William E. Deming is kind of insisting on all of us, right? This is what you should do. So next time, if someone comes to you and says, I strongly feel this is what we should do, right? I strongly feel that this is how we need to channelize our investments. This is how we kind of, design the strategy. And this is my hunch, this is my gut feel, this is my experience. Pause for a moment and ask them, give me the data. I get your point. This is based on your intuition, your tribal knowledge, your interactions. All this is fine, very useful, very meaningful. I'm going to use that definitely in my decision making. But please, show me the data. Give me the data, right? So this is what a matured organization, a data literate organization should do across the ranks, right? Starting from working desks all the way to boardrooms. Give me the data is something which everyone should insist on. And when an organization does that, that's when it can call itself truly data literate. And it's definitely kind of bound to succeed from there on. With that, and with this profound quote, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for patient listening. Any questions? Yeah.
In terms of data literacy, every organization is sitting on tons and tons of data.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sir, could you be a little louder, please?
I don't think the mic is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think I can.
So every organization here is sitting on tons and tons of data, right? And as, let's say, we acquire or we merge with another organization, that creates even more complexity. So what are some of the best practices that you might want to share if we were to sort of start making an organization more and more data literate, from the top down? Are there any best practices that you think work? Anything from your experience?
Sure. So I will kind of fall back on the example which I tried to give, which I gave, right? So which is about our team coming up with a good solution, a holistic solution we thought, and the business was not using it, right? So what we did, right, in order to fix that, of course, we found out that the entire organization was kind of apprehensive of using this, our solution. But how did we solve for that was in two ways, right? One was, of course, we kept going, kept giving them trainings, kept kind of knocking their doors and saying that, okay, please use this, use the knowledge articles. We made it easily accessible and everything. Another thing which was very, very effective was driving the adoption or driving the notion of data literacy top down, right? It is very effective when it is top down, right? Therefore, it is very effective if you convince your executives, if you convince your senior leadership that data literacy is supreme importance, right? Once they are onboarded or signed off with you in terms of data literacy and the need for that in the team, they are going to percolate that. So this is what happened, right? Once we convinced the business head saying that these are the reports which are kind of going to give them what they need, much better than the Excel, they percolated it down to the team, and the team started using it. And they had that aha moment. Oh, yes, I know what you were talking about, Nithya, now, because these reports are indeed making my life easy, right, beyond the Excels. Right? We never knew about it, right? Because they never bothered because of their, mind blocks. They were not even bothered to kind of go and check those, trainings and everything, right? So one was, of course, our continuous persistent effort, but the most important thing was the top-down driving of the data literacy in that particular organization. So I think that really works wonders.
Actually, I think you right now talked about the practice, right? Just had a question about, are there any tools that you recommend in terms of, obviously when the developer team is also large, and first of all there has the
Sir, could you hold the mic closer, please?
Sorry, is it audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, but please could you repeat the question?
My question was around any tools that you recommend. Like basically we have a large team of developers who first develop for the metrics, and then comes the data literacy top down. Are there any tools that you recommend? Keeping this data literacy in mind.
Right. So I'll tell you from my experience, right or wrong, but this is my experience, right? So one thing that a lot of people across the organization do not know, that there are such intuitive, effective, efficient solutions existing, right? So the first and foremost thing is to kind of create that awareness and visibility, right? For that, you have got a lot of those tools that can create the visibility of the solutions that you have that are solving a typical problem, from Octanes of the world to Jiras of the world to plan views of the world. And there are a lot of these tools that you can use to just create that visibility of all the cutting-edge intuitive solutions that you have in your organization. Let people know, let people be inquisitive, let them come to you saying that, hey, this solution you have developed for the marketing department, I see a lot of relevance in supply chain, for instance, or finance, for instance, right? Let's have a conversation, right? So first and foremost thing is use relevant tools. There are a slew of tools to create the visibility, right, around the existing solutions, right? And beyond that, you have got a deluge of tools in order to effectively build solutions. If I'll be telling, I'll be preaching the choir. So there'll be, starting from the GCPs of the world or AWSs of the world, right, Azures. There are a lot of these tools which you can deploy to kind of create these solutions effectively. And these are, these are also offering, applications which can help you identify biases in your data and your algorithm. Yeah.
So the lady in the middle, this will be the last question. Go ahead, madam.
Hi, Nithya. Thank you for the session. I had a question related to legacy data that exists, right? That already has the bias. Even if I introduce like digital literacy to the organization, they might start following certain guidelines in terms of creating data from now on. But do we just end up ignoring the legacy data that exists in our systems? Because I'm not sure what all biases are there coming from, right? How can we solve for it? Or should we just apply that data literacy from now on and start collecting proper data that we probably require for training purposes?
Well, data literacy is not like, it's not a time-bound thing, right? To apply it from now on, or you apply it 5 years down the line, right? Even on historical data, there are multiple ways of debiasing, right? So if you were to talk to, to somebody who is very good in kind of coming up with synthetic data, they will say that, okay, it's easy for me to kind of ensure that, your data might be skewed. Of course, as you just mentioned, that, a lot of the data is, there's a volume of data which gets created from one set of countries, whereas, the other set of countries, you're not having that much of data. And if you're creating algorithms that have got application across the geography, right, you might end up creating bias system. But there are always ways and means in which you can create synthetic data in order to debias your data, right? The only reason where literacy becomes important is associating that this is a problem, right? Associating your importance to this problem, right? And that solves for it. Once you identify that this is a problem to be solved for, there are multiple ways, as I mentioned, creating synthetic data and, filtering the elements that might bias your outcomes, right, out of your feature set, right? Some of the elements. So the literacy plays a part in identifying that this is a problem and this is the way I would solve a problem. There will be umpteen ways of solving the problem after that. Sure.
Thank you for that. Can we have a big round of applause to the lady on stage?